start. Good evening. It is now 5:01 p.m. and I will bring this meeting to order of the Dixon Unified School Board. And as we have no public in the Zoom to comment on closed session, I will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Without pay and dismissal of a classified employee effective August 10th, 2020. And let's start the business meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. Lloyd.
Looks like he froze. Oh, there he is.
He's here. You're muted, Lloyd. But that's okay. We see you. Jewel?
Aye. Here.
Melissa?
I'm here.
Catlin?
Here.
And I'm here as well. We have everyone present. Okay, I'm not going to read through the normal notice to the public since we learned last time. We don't want you to raise your digital hand at this time. After each item, oh, Lloyd, you're here.
Thank you.
Thanks. After each item, when we open it for public comment, I'll suggest you raise your hand at that time so that we don't have a bunch of hands raised untimely. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9324B, the district may tape, film, stream, or broadcast any open board meeting. The recording or broadcast may capture images or sounds of those attending the meeting. Any district recording may be erased or destroyed 30 days after the meeting. Recordings made at the direction of the board during a meeting are public records and upon request shall be made available for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. We are going to try to follow our rules from last meeting, which is 5 minutes per speaker, although I don't think that's going to be as big a deal tonight. And we'll try to not do the back and forth that tends to lengthen things. Okay, recognition of guests and presentations.
We don't have any this evening, although I think my mic was hot when I just noticed coming in that there was less than 50 people in the meeting tonight. So we're glad to have the 50, but it's a massive reduction. So
yes, and thank you to those that are here. Okay, any correspondence?
No correspondence either.
Okay, consent agenda.
I'd like to ask if we could table 10A4. This was a placeholder resolution regarding the John Knight Middle School renovation project. If we had a contingent bid, we were going to have to do it with that particular resolution. The bid would have been contingent if we did not have DSA, Division of State Architect, approval on the plans. But those plans were approved just a couple days ago. So we would ask you to remove 10A4 from our agenda tonight.
Okay, do we have a motion to remove 10A4 from the agenda?
So move.
We have a
I'll
motion.
second.
And we have a second. Roll call vote. Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Catlin?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Okay. Any board questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Any public questions or comments on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Catlin?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, stakeholder communications. There's no report from the Citizens Oversight Committee tonight. Do we have any employee association reports? If there's anyone out there from either of the employee associations that would like to comment, please raise your hand now. Kathy Michaels?
Catherine ready.
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. Just letting you know that we were successful in passing the MOU, and our teachers and staff are ready to go and excited about meeting students. We appreciate the support from the district, and we'd like to continue working with the district to make DL work.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, do we have anyone from SEIU that would like to make an employee association report?
Seeing none.
All righty, any parent association reports? If so, raise your digital hand now.
I am seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. Persons wishing to introduce a topic within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district and not on the agenda may do so at this time. By law, subjects not on the agenda cannot be acted upon by the board, except to briefly respond, clarify, or refer to staff for review and presentation at a future meeting. Comments may be limited to 5 minutes per person to a maximum of 25 minutes per topic, unless extended by the board president. Comments are to be directed exclusively to the governing board, and the board president shall determine who, if anyone, may respond to the comments or questions of the speaker. Anyone who would like to make public comment, please raise your digital hand now, and I see Kathleen Burrows.
Good evening. I just have a quick question regarding whether or not there are any kind of plans or contingency plans being developed around the smoky conditions in Solano County. I actually live in Sacramento, and I am in my home right now, and I have been for the last over 24 hours, and I'm starting to notice that even my home is getting a little bit inundated with smoke, and I'm getting, a little bit of a headache and some chest pain. So I just want to, look out for the health and safety of all staff in Dixon, because I can only imagine how much worse it is closer to the fires. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. If you'd like
Kathleen.
me to, Luke, I can
Let's-
respond briefly
Let's
if you'd
wait,
like.
let's wait till the end of public comment and then,
Okay.
just so we keep our procedure straight.
You got it.
Any other public comments, please raise your hand now.
I'm seeing none.
And it seems that is the end of public comment. So go ahead, Brian.
I just had a feeling. So Solano County Office of Education is coordinating monitoring for us, working with the, gosh, it just left my brain, the clean air folks for the county. And at this point in time, we do have Vacaville, Fairfield, and Travis, which have suspended even distance learning activities for this week based on evacuations, dislocation, and the loss of homes for both students and staff there, not based on air quality. So we are getting assistance from the county office. While the air certainly is not healthy, it's not at a point where any indoor activities in particular would be restricted. I don't know if they were inside again today, but I know yesterday our maintenance operations grounds folks all were provided with indoor tasks to complete. So that was a precaution for our workers who ordinarily would be outside.
Brian, it's Mark. Can I add to that, please?
You may, of course. Thank you.
I wanted to let you know that, remember, we turned up the outside air percentage to 20%. So there could be people in their classrooms who are having some effects for this. When we looked and we monitored the YOLO Solano air quality website each day, and today was unhealthy. So I did have some teachers that did say that there was some smoke getting into their room even with the doors closed, and that's because we've increased that airflow from outside to help with COVID coming up. But apparently we changed it a little bit too much. So we're going to leave it at 20, hope that the smoke clears out and move on.
Is that something that we can talk to the county air resources or state air resources and find out at what point they would suggest that we modify our settings on our HVAC systems?
I will check to see if it's coming from them or CDE, because our original settings at 10% is a CDE controlled piece.
Okay.
Okay.
And with respect to the evacuations in Vacaville and such, has there been any communication on, I mean, I know it's not looking like we're going to have those issues here, knock on wood, but how will we be notified if something like that starts to happen, and how will we let people know?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what fire agency would be responsible. If it would be Dixon Fire, I would assume, for any local orders. Obviously, there's an awful lot of teamwork happening between the fire agencies right now. But we have, I know I saw communication out from the mayor. I don't know if that was today or last evening, saying that Dixon is not at risk for any evacuations. You can monitor on the map, the evacuation zone map, but we're anticipating none. I'd also just remind people, through Monday, any of our teachers who are on duty are able to work from home, and home smells like smoke too. Kathleen's in Sacramento. Home smells like smoke for sure here in Dixon. I can only imagine closer to the fires, but working from home is also the option right now.
And of course, any of our employees, if they start to feel ill on the job, should raise it through the appropriate channels and
Yes,
get help.
absolutely.
Okay, any other board questions or comments on that issue? Okay, so,
Have Catherine up next.
oh, go ahead, Catherine.
Hi, sorry, it's Kathy. I'm gonna just dovetail off of Kathleen's question. We have some employees who are in Vacaville and are needing to evacuate or are helping people evacuate. Are there any contingency plans if those people need to be housed or have to deal with that situation on their own?
Should I take that, Luke?
Yeah, I'm gonna officially close public comment at that point, and yeah, go ahead and take that, Brian.
Okay, so we don't have any provisions there, and what I understand in Vacaville, we've had quite a bit of conversation amongst superintendents here in the last 48 hours. Vacaville did open up stations for the community, but nothing particularly or specific to its employees. What I do understand is there's been a great community response, the Vacaville Unified Community Response, assisting both with the shelters and with employees who have been affected. But at this point in time, we would not have any specific action for the district to take in terms related to any employees' evacuations.
Okay, so let's move on to item 11A, 1, update on reopening school plans.
All right, so we anticipate this will be a much shorter reopening item than we've had in some time. Really, the intent tonight is for each of the cabinet members to give a very brief report on the work that they've been doing here to get us ready for our first day of school on Monday. I can tell you that we have absolutely used the 2-week delay in the start of the school year, I think, with a lot of careful preparation, a lot of activities that you'll hear that from the team tonight that leave us in much, much better condition to have a smooth opening of school. So that said, I'm going to invite Mr. Giramonte first off to talk about Ed Services and what they have been doing. They've been very busy helping our staff in particular get ready for the start of the year. Mr. Giramonte.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, so I'm going to talk mostly about professional development this evening, as that's been the primary focus of educational services. So as mentioned at the last meeting, we were able to secure a summit done by the Ed Tech team and make that available to staff last week. We had 128 staff members participate in that, and by all accounts, that was a really positive event. I actually roughly got about 10 emails just from staff all over the district that said they appreciated the training and they found it really, really useful. We also were able to sign up 16 to participate in Avid Digital XP. That's 16 additional. And so we raised the number of staff who did Avid Digital XP to 62 teachers this summer, which is the most we've ever had in a long time. And it never fails. I don't know. Every time.
Thank you.
It's fine. It's fine.
And we love it. We love it.
In his defense, Mr. Jeremani's home was in an evacuation area last night. I think he's staying another night up in Woodland with his at his mom and stepfather's house. So these are not his normal working conditions. But please do give our regards to Benji.
And I got kicked into the secondary space because my wife is giving a board presentation for her district in the other room. So
Okay.
We need to be flexible in these times.
There we go. That's the right word. Okay, so we also we're also, to follow up on the Avid, going to have a post-conference meeting with all the participants that Maria Lukien is organizing here in the next couple weeks. Typically, when we do Avid Summer Institute with all of our folks, we're able to do that in real time at the actual conference. This is a chance to do that, and the goal there is to really solidify all of our site plans and our district goals and take the momentum forward from all the training. So we had our 3 professional development days that were agreed to in the MOU last week. Starting on Monday, the first day we had a keynote from Jonathan Grant Brown, who's an avid presenter, but really just gave a really inspiring message to all our staff around the work that we do. You know, it's been obviously a very interesting summer, a lot of really good conversations. And certainly I think everybody was focused on how we open with our students, but Jonathan really drove that home for us as far as the work that we do and made sure that that stays our focus. And really connect that then to our mission. Our staff then on Monday, our sites went and did a site meeting right after that and really contextualized that message with what they're going to do at their sites. We brought everybody back to the district and then did some kind of logistical things around the handbook. The sites then again took that and had conversations around how they operationalize that document at their school sites. Tuesday was the big PD day, and I just really got to give a shout out to Adrian Lauder, Maria Lukien, and Jake Ritchell, who were able to secure 22 different sessions on Tuesday for staff to choose from. A variety of topics, everything from creating engaging lessons for asynchronous learning to building relationships and connection via virtual learning, how to create engaging primary lessons in a virtual learning environment. And then we had some specific trainings from folks. We had some specific trainings from some of the applications that we have, like Pear Deck and Edpuzzle. So a very busy day. You know, I worry that maybe we threw too much at folks, if I'm being honest, and really encourage staff to, you know, they don't need to use everything that we've shown them, but find the things that are going to be successful here as we start and take those and run with them. And then really the rest of the week has been teachers being able to work in their teams to be able to take the learning that they had and put those things in place. As we move into next week, I just want to make sure I'm clear with families and the community at large. You know, we want to get started with the academic work as soon as we can, but we also know that we have to spend some time with our students next week. One, rebuilding and rekindling those relationships that we know have been strained since the closure in March. But then also really teaching our kids how to be students in the digital learning environment or distance learning environment. They learned some things, they learned some of that last spring, but what they're going to experience this year is so different. So we really need to make sure that our kids know what's the what on all that. So that's Ed Services in a nutshell.
Okay, board questions or comments for Nick? Okay, hearing none. Nick, I'm just curious, as we go along through this, it's going to be obviously a learn and retune as we go along.
Absolutely.
For lack of better terms. How are we going to get the feedback from the teachers on things that we can pass around best practices to try to help everyone?
That's a great question, Luke. So, you know, I really do point to those Mondays that we have as some time for grade level teams and departments to be able to work together and consult. You know, we'll be giving that direction to principals who are really frontline on the management side as far as talking to their leaders at school sites and what they're hearing and making sure we're bringing that to the forefront when we see something that's not working. But we can also go back to doing some of the surveying that we've done in the past just to check in, you know, bi-weekly or monthly. to see what folks are saying. And then, of course, we have our instructional coaches who can help with that as well.
Okay, super. Let's open this up to public questions and comments for Mr.
You wanna-
Giramante.
Sorry, Luke, to jump in. Did we want
Yeah,
to
sorry.
hear from everybody and then open up to public? Or, because I'm going to have all the cabinet go, or you want to take it one at a time?
I think as long as it's limited to the ed services, we can go ahead and open public comment for ed services and then do each one as we go.
Great.
So if anyone has questions for Mr. Giramante on ed services stuff that he just discussed, please feel free to raise your digital hand.
I have Angela up one first.
Go ahead, Angela. Oh, did we lose her?
Looks
Her
like
hand
she
is no
just
longer
dropped
up.
off, so.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Giramante? On ed-
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. Go ahead.
I apologize for that. I was trying to unmute myself. I had you guys on my Bluetooth.
No worry, no problem. Go ahead.
I just wanted to get on really quick and just say how excited I am to get started with the students. And I wanted to particularly thank Mr. Giramante and Mr. Richel for the trainings that we've had these past 2 weeks. The ed tech training was phenomenal. I learned so many things and took so many things to my toolbox. And Mr. Richel's afternoon trainings have not only been informative, but also very therapeutic because his voice is just so relaxing. So I just wanted to let the board know and the district know and Mr. Giramante know that I'm very thankful for the training that I've received this last 2 weeks.
Great, thank you. That's really nice
Thanks,
to hear.
Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. And we're chuckling at the therapeutic voice of Mr. Richel. He's getting some teasing around the office. Ms. Farrar is not the only person who says he's got a therapeutic kind of voice to him. So we get to have more fun with Jake Richel tomorrow.
Yeah, I've been joking with the other teachers that we're calling it teacher self-care to take Jake's trainings.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much for listening to me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment for ed services?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
All right, I'm going to ask Adrian Lauder to step up next. Pupil services, our whole support for students with mental health and social emotional, and we know that this is a really important area for us as we get started here. So welcome, Ms. Lauder. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to tell my family to be quiet as I'm getting on. So we are, my team is continuing to just get ready for the start of school to begin pushing out lessons to our staff. I think right now, the clinicians, they're set, they're ready to go. Our student services biggest area really right now is getting attendance running and off the ground. It's going to be very different than it was in the past. We are responsible to take daily attendance for synchronous learning time, for asynchronous learning time. So we're taking positive attendance, which is a shift for all of our sites with the exception of Main Prairie. And it's going to be very different. We're trying to find a workaround for our secondary staff because that's a lot of kids to document. They're there every period of the day and then do that again in the afternoon. But we're working as we go along. I want to say a big thank you to Keith Schneider from the IT department. You cannot imagine how much work there is into setting up an A schedule for every student, a B schedule for every student, for the B schedule students, and then anticipating going back into a hybrid. But he's been a great resource for us, and we're going to send out tomorrow more information for staff that includes screenshots of what their attendance will look like, and start off, on Monday and see how everything goes. We are also working with IT. Thank you to Mark. We ordered 100 additional hotspots. So we sent out hotspot. We used all the ones that we've had, and we have new orders for families coming in. I'm sure Mark will talk more about that. And then working on childcare, because based on our childcare survey, there is definitely an interest. Spoke to CDC. We are working on getting another room at Tremont, just have some AC issues to fix. There are currently 20 families on the list for, at CDC, which is now called Catalyst, waiting for a spot. If we open up the room at Tremont, that will give us a space for 14, and then working with Brian and Mark to see if we have some space to open up some additional rooms. But just wanting to get some families some support there, because there is a need. So 20 on the waiting list, and then based on the survey, an additional 60 families who are interested in childcare. So that's really our pupil services update for today. Any questions?
Thank you, Adrian. Any board questions?
All right.
Okay, hearing
Thanks,
none. Any public questions for Ms. Slaughter?
Seeing none.
Okay, thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. I'll have Kim Parrott, Director of Special Education.
Oh, my camera's a little high there. Good evening. We continue to be very busy in special education. Our psychologists have been back, they come back a little earlier than the teachers. They have been working on getting our assessment schedule up and running for those scheduled assessments back in March, that missed in March, April, and May when we closed. We are working to get those assessments scheduled as far as getting the actual assessment done. We will be doing those by appointment with parents with the full PPE in place. Our parents will also notice that they will be receiving letters either by email or snail mail about the services that their students are going to be receiving through distance learning. It'll look somewhat similar to the letter that you received in the spring, but the services are going to be implemented differently. And like for instance, with speech, you're going to be getting your actual speech out minutes that the children are have designated in the IEP. As was shared earlier, this first week or so of school, it's about, for our teachers, getting those relationships built with the students. And as the kids are getting used to this new distance learning, building those relationships, kind of behind the scenes, we're going to have the special education staff scheduling the speech sessions and the OT sessions and the various sessions with resource that need to occur per the IEP as it's going to relate to that AB schedule. Because as I shared earlier, we are planning to provide the direct speech and the direct OT services during the asynchronous time, so that we are not taking time away from their direct time with the teacher, even though it's going to be a varied time during that 3 hours. We are also going to be, our resource specialists, we will be seeing kids, for instance, if they had 4 times a week with a resource specialist, 2 of them might be during their synchronous time and 2 would be during their asynchronous time. The paraprofessionals will also, along with the resource specialist, be holding times that the kids can seek out extra help, and will also be pushing into classrooms. So it's going to be look a little different for the kids. We are going to be making sure that they know the faces of the people that are going to be working with them, but we are not going to be pulling them this first week for those services, because we want them to develop that relationship, get comfortable with the distance learning before we dive in and start entering into the various pull-out services that some of the students have. We also, I'm also working with Jake Ritchell to get further training for our paraprofessionals. Our paraprofessionals have also been participating in these trainings that have been going on these last 2 weeks. We have been checking out their laptops to the paraprofessionals the last few days. Thank you to Kelly Chavez, who's been assisting greatly with that as she worked with IT to get that scheduled and done. And so we're checking those out to the paraprofessionals so that they're going to actually have breakaway rooms, be pushing into classrooms and doing whatever they can to support the students. And you'll be receiving more information, parents, on that as we start to roll out the special education services and the special ed letters. But the most phone calls we have received have been about assessment. Please know that if your child has a triennial assessment that is normally due in the fall, We will be keeping those upcoming assessments on time while we are also working to bring forward those from the spring that have been delayed. So our team is working very hard to get those scheduled. You will be receiving phone calls because these will be by appointment. There will be informational letters and procedures that will be gone over with parents as those phone calls are made. So thank you very much for working with us as we move forward in the assessments that we're going to be doing with the children.
Great, thank you, Kim. Board questions? Hey, Kim, if there's a parent who doesn't get the call or the email or the snail mail, how would you suggest they best get in touch with you or the district appropriate person?
The best reach out, if they know who their child's case manager is at the school site, is to reach out to that case manager. If you do not know, then yes, by all means, email me, call me, will do, and I will get back to you. They kind of tease me sometimes that I call them at 8 o'clock at night, but I will get back to you. But please reach out to your case manager first. That's a relationship you're definitely going to want to build for yourself. Case managers, they're all very involved. None of the case managers at the elementary level, other than one of the special day classes, has changed. So it's your same case managers that you had last year. At the preschool level, the only change is we do have a change in our speech therapist, and she is wonderful. That's Miss Brittany Davis. At the high school, the whole staff is still intact, but there has been some shifts in grade level. But if you reach out to last year's case manager or any of the case managers at the high school, they are phenomenal at working with each other.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's go out for any public questions or comments. Kim, raise your digital hand now if you have a question.
Seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, let's move on.
Okay, I'll ask Mark Monticello. I think Mark is carrying about 7 areas of responsibility in the district right now. So tonight I'll just ask him to limit himself to technology and our safety work, maintenance and operations. Mr. Monticello, thank you.
Oddly enough, we have nothing going on. So that's it. So let's go over first, classrooms are ready. Thank you to the summer custodians and maintenance workers. The PPE is in the classroom for the teachers. Posters we received. Today, Carmen put those into groups, so those will go out to the schools tomorrow to hit the classrooms and all the offices on each campus. We've given out about 1,000 computers in the last 2 days. I want to say that I want to thank the superintendent for being there yesterday. As we left at 7:30 last night, as we went from 11 to 7, we gave out 708. A little over 300 today brings our total to 2,200 of our students have district devices. I'd like to also acknowledge Keith for rolling over Aries and doing his due diligence on trying to figure out how we keep A and B and hybrid scheduling and attendance going. Just want to let you know that my wife received a 6-page letter from Fairfield Sassoon on how to do that. So I hope that ours is a little bit less. We have been trying to do some supporting of teachers, although we've been at the high school giving computers out. Tomorrow, the techs are going to get some brief updates on how to support teachers, and then they'll be out Friday and Monday morning. I did want to let you know that we are going to do another computer checkout on Monday from 12 to 7 at the MPR in, the high school. So 12 to 7. That will also be open for any parent that is having some technical issues to come on in and get support physically at the site. So 12 to 7 on Monday at the MPR in the high school. Stop it, Brian. For technical support or getting your new computer for your meetings. We've also been setting up some Zoom meetings for large groups, both at the high school and middle school that are up and running. Also, we were working with Adrian to get some wireless access from C.A. Jacobs, excuse me, to Bert and Ernie, to send wireless signal. We have about 20 to 25 students who will be attending Bert and Ernie's that will need access, which is a lot more than they can handle over there. So we are working on that at the same time. So I apologize greatly for my demeanor. If you have any questions, I will answer them now.
Thanks, Mark. Any board questions? So, Mark, on the CAJ orientation last night, it was asked if you have your own computer, should you still check one out? And kids were told it's better to get a district one if you can.
Yes, the reason for that is all of our computers are now Chromebooks. And because they're a district Chromebook, we push the extensions out that the students will need based on what the teacher is doing. We may not be able to push extensions out to private Chromebooks who are not part of the district. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
they may have a different learning environment.
And I know it's been said many times, but just to beat the dead horse, that's a horrible saying, but every kid should get their own. So if some family has one from the spring, they should still come get them for other kids.
That is correct. We are going one-to-one. So in my mind, we should have about 3,000 computers checked out. We're at about 2,200 right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's open for public questions and comments for Mark. If you have any public questions, please raise your digital hand now.
I'm seeing none.
Okay, then let's move on. Thank you,
All
Mark.
right. Thanks, Mark. I'll have Cindy Nguyen, Executive Director, Human Resources, talk about the work she's been doing related to staffing issues. Cindy?
Good evening. It is actually the work of my team. I absolutely cannot do it without my team. So I wanted to share that the team here has been focused on staffing positions, working with our IT to get our new hires network access, and also getting them entered in the system to receive appropriate pay. We've also been able to offer our substitute teachers who are interested in working this year on site professional development opportunities. And so they've been offered those opportunities all this week through the weekend to complete for preparation of any potential day-to-day substitute needs that may come up during the course of this school year. And some of those training opportunities include Google Classroom and Zoom and a few courses that's been offered by Ed Services as well. HR has been working on meeting with employees individually to offer support through the course of this week. So a lot of meetings been held this week so far. We are also looking to offer training opportunities for our classified employees, one, who are directly working with our students, and two, other opportunities for our other classified groups for professional development opportunities this school year as well. So that's what I have so far.
Okay.
Any board questions? Okay, seeing none, let's go out for public questions. Any questions for Cindy?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Great. Last but not least, Monique Stovall, our Chief Business Official, will talk kind of about some of the behind the scenes money management.
Yeah, so I'll provide an update on business services and also an update for food services. In business services, the team is working as diligently as possible and as quickly as possible to make sure that our schools and departments are able to make the purchases, especially those unique purchases that they need to do to support our distance learning endeavor. Also making sure that we're able to have good procedures for processing time cards and allocating the funds to the one-time funding as much as possible with an eye on our budget and our budget situation. For food services, I want to again publicly thank our food services team for just the amazing work they've been doing since our school closure, since all of this began. We are nearing serving over 100,000 meals since school closed, which is just amazing when we think about the impact that that has on our students and our families. They're serving all the way up until tomorrow with the free meals effective Monday. That's when we go back to regular meal service where students will be served their meal based upon their qualification for free or reduced price meals. We understand that many people's financial situation may have changed dramatically during this pandemic. And so we are really pushing and almost, I would say, campaigning to have families complete the meal applications, preferably online. They can do it through their phone, they can do it through their website, but we also have the paper applications available for them to know that we're here to support them. So if they can qualify for free or reduced price meals, we want them to make sure that they can receive those benefits. We'll be serving meals at every school site. At our elementaries, we'll serve from 11 to 12:30 every day. And at our middle school, we'll serve from 11:30 to 1 every day. We'll provide them their lunch for today and their breakfast for tomorrow. I do want to say that's flexible. If we find that we need to serve longer or shorter or change some things, the food service team is willing and always able to be flexible so that we can serve our students and support them in their nutrition so they can do well in school.
Great, thank you.
all.
Thanks, Monique.
Any board questions for Monique?
Is Monique the last person on this item?
He is, yes. Yep.
Okay, so I don't just have a comment for Monique, but for everyone. And, you know, all of our staff and teachers and everyone at the district office, thank you so much for all your hard work of getting our students ready for school and getting ready to get back to learning and to what we do best.
Yes, and I'd like to echo what Monique said about all the food workers who were out there making sure all the families got support and food during all this time when it's been so hard. Okay, any other board comments or questions? Okay, let's go out for public questions or comments for Monique.
Kathleen up first.
Hello again. I hope that my question is not a total non sequitur, but Monique, forgive me for asking in case you previously presented on this earlier in the summer. How much funding did our school receive in CARES Act funds? And my second question, I guess, is for the greater governing board and you, Mr. Dolan, at large. Is there talk or are there plans starting to be developed around potentially creating a committee similar to LCAP that would oversee the CARES Act funds that we receive, but also provide input as to how those funds are allocated? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public questions or comments?
Seeing none.
Okay, let's close public comment. Monique or Brian, I don't know which one of you wants to answer those questions about the funds and the committee.
I'll let the expert take the first shot.
Okay, I'll take my first shot. You can help me on the back end if you need to. We received about a little over $3 million in the CARES Act funds, a little over 50,000 last year, and the remaining balance we should be receiving this year. What's unique about these funds, I want to point out, is more than half of those funds need to be spent by December 30th. And we've already begun spending those funds on the resources that we need to implement distance learning, the unique expenditures that are directly related to the closure, the pandemic, and COVID. We will be creating a budget advisory committee. They won't specifically oversee how the CARES funds are used or allocated, but they will support us really on an ongoing basis, not just during our current budget situation where we need to make some extreme budget adjustments, but throughout the years to help us to keep an eye on our budget. And it's open to anyone who is interested in being a part of that committee.
Okay, thank you, Monique. Brian, anything you want to add?
No, just, we began the budget advisory, restarted it. We'd had one in years past last year, and it had parent representation, representation from each of the labor groups. And it was a good venue for us to talk about our situation last year. And then it really became interrupted when the epidemic began. So we are looking forward to re-engaging, hopefully with largely the same membership if we can do it, just because the continuity is of such great benefit there. So that will be the approach. And I want to make sure we understand that, a big chunk of that money coming is the learning loss mitigation funding. While we have, really significant expenditures to make on a one-time basis related to the safety and operational things, professional development that we just engaged in is going to be funded out of those CARES Act dollars. That to the greatest extent, this revenue is survival revenue, and it is one time at this point. And so as you saw that multi-year projection at the last meeting or the meeting before, and you saw that decline of $4 million in revenue, that is largely tied to this one-time money that is being provided in response to the pandemic. So the challenges ahead of us, and it's kind of ludicrous, we have to spend all this money, hurry to spend all this money by December 31st instead of have ample time to really plan and use it judiciously. But we are looking at the short term, a level of comfort that we can tolerate, but after that, really challenging financial time.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to item 11A2.
Yep, and just my quick word is so many thanks to offer out to everyone. I had the pleasure of getting in front of our food service staff today. I was over distributing computers, as Mark said, and they were having a meeting, and they just really were the best of Dixon Unified all summer long, is what I told them. So thank them, thank everybody else who's been working, really thank our staff for jumping into professional development and collaboration this week. And it all comes to fruition on Monday on our first day of school, our very odd first day of school, but we do welcome our kids back and are excited about being able to serve them in these really different ways. So that's it.
Great. Let's move on to 11A2 then.
All right, I'm happy to welcome Lee Coop, who is one of our consultants with School Site Solutions Incorporated. Lee has made a number of appearances before the board and is at all of our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meetings as well. So we have three resolutions tonight that Lee is going to present to you, reminding you that we tabled item number 4, which was the contingent bid. 2 of these related to furniture and equipment, and 1 to the bid for the windows and kitchen part of our project over at JK. So Ms. Coop, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Superintendent Dolan. As Superintendent Dolan said, my name is Lee Coop from School Site Solutions. Good evening, President of the board and board members and members of the public and staff as well. We have 2 resolutions and a bid award. So this first resolution is, the 2 resolutions are about furniture. And as is pretty typical for furniture procurement in California public K-12 school districts and actually K-14 school districts, we do a public contract code allows us to do what's called a piggyback. We piggyback onto the back of an already competitively bid contract with various agencies. And this has worked over the years as some agencies have, when they take it upon themselves to do usually a multi-year contract, they're making a large purchase of furniture and equipment, they will add on to their language in the bid and then their board approvals that school districts around the state can also use this bid. And so we have two of those tonight. This first one is a piggyback resolution to allow the district to use School Specialty, who is a vendor here in Northern California and who the district has used before. And this is all for the John Knight Middle School renovation project. This resolution allows us to go ahead and purchase in a not to exceed amount of $550,000. We anticipate that it will be lower than that, but we don't know how much lower. We are in the process right now of on the back of a lot of work that the Furniture and Equipment Committee did, which was made of teachers and administrators, school secretary, custodian, other people in the school over at C.A. Jacobs, and who will be at John Knight Middle School. We did a lot of work in the committee in February, and thank goodness we did that, because in March, of course, everything shut down. So we had a lot of ability to move forward from all the input that they provided us, and it was extremely helpful. Couldn't do it without them. This first vendor had a showcase, and we had a room full of furniture that this committee looked at. The second one we will see, who is Campbell Keller. The committee traveled to their showcase over in Rancho Cordova. We're in the process of fine-tuning our list of items that we will be purchasing. We're fine-tuning the standards for the types of rooms and spaces, and we're fine-tuning, of course, it will eventually get to color palettes and the fun stuff like that. We're not quite there yet, but very, very close. We hope to have purchase orders issued by mid-September, and we will be bringing to you specific lists at a later board meeting. So this will allow us to work with those two vendors, and this one resolution is, again, for School Specialty. We've tapped School Specialty to do the complete campus, all of the furniture and equipment on the campus, except for the library. And Campbell Keller will be doing the library. We use them because of both firms, actually, the breadth of experience they have in Northern California with K-12. Their long list of references of school districts that have used them and who are happy with them. Dixon Unified has used both of these vendors in the past successfully. So we're very happy with their level of service, their capacity, their responsiveness. And so I would offer to you and recommend this adoption of this resolution.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lee. Any board questions? Hearing none, I'm just curious, Lee, the first resolution we're talking about, the piggybacking you mentioned, is with Monterey County, and then the next one with Los Rios. Is there any reasoning between which county, or is it just who's ever doing the bidding at the time that you're looking?
It's who has active bids at the time.
Okay.
So for those vendors, they offer up to us the bids that are most appropriate for K-12 and have the biggest items that we would be able to choose from. So it's these two agencies have active contracts that go multi-year contracts that are good for us to use right now.
And so that purchasing power brings down the price for us.
Absolutely. This piggyback process is pretty typical throughout California. And it's, again, those districts that usually are larger districts that tend to, they might, like Monterey County Office of Ed, and then Los Rios Community College, they tag on all the other school districts onto their bid. the pricing is substantial. We have substantial discounts from the list price, and we go through the items and we can see those discounts. So we follow the terms and conditions of those contracts and the prices. So in other words, they can't do a switcheroo on us and give it to us at a bigger price, at a higher price.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's open this up for public questions for Ms. Coop.
Tad is up first.
Just a question on the piggyback process. Luke, would you please ask how much time that will save to go through that? I understand about the financial cost, but what about the time saving? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tad.
That's
Any
real-
other?
That's really almost the biggest benefit,
Yeah.
Lee, if you want to go ahead.
Well, let's see if there's any other public.
Oh, sorry.
questions first. That's okay, just trying to keep us. Any other public questions or comments before we go to Lee on that one?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you, Tad. As chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, you have asked a very good question. So yes, it saves not only the money, but the time. If we did not
check it?
if we didn't do this and had to do our own bid, it would take hours and hours and hours and hours. It's just a monumental task, and that's why this is a great thing that school districts do for each other. And that would be hours of my time that you would have to pay for. So this is a wonderful process we can take advantage of.
Great, and thank you for that question, Tad. Okay, so this is a resolution. Do we have a motion for approval of John Knight Middle School renovation project furniture procurement number 20-1634?
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is a resolution, so roll call vote. Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel? Melissa?
Aye.
Catlin?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Resolution passes. Thank you. Okay, so on to item 11A3, school renovation project, John Knight Middle School 20-1635.
Thank you, President Foster. This is the same wording as the previous resolution. This is for Campbell Keller, which I said they are a firm based out of Rancho Cordova, so very, very close by. And again, we chose them to help out with the library. They have a really good layout system for libraries, and I know that their experience in that is really good. So we sort of carved that out for them. They've been working with Holly, who is the librarian over at C.A. Jacobs, and we've got some nice draft layouts, and that library is going to look really, really good. So this one is for a not to exceed amount of $150,000, if you can believe that, just for the library. And that's not books, that's just furniture and equipment. It's also, there's also a secondary room, meeting room, or we're looking at a meeting room, maybe storage in there, and then also the librarian's office / workroom. That's furnishing of that. And again, I don't think that we will spend $150,000, but we want to make it a not to exceed on that. So we're sure to get it covered.
Okay, any board questions?
So the library, was that part of our original budget as far as our furniture is concerned?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board questions? Lee, can you just address briefly why the library costs that much with all the rest of the furniture costing only less than $550?
The libraries in schools are very expensive. Typically, they are, along with science labs, they are one of the most expensive rooms to furnish. There are all the shelving that goes across around the walls. We have it going on the periphery, around the perimeter. That shelving, of course, has to be installed and anchored. The installer does that. We have a lot of varying furniture. There's just a huge amount of different furniture. In this, I'll be showing you layouts at a later board meeting that we have some soft seating for some students in corners of the room where they get together. We have bookshelves that also act as room dividers. They're curved and they look really nice, and they're able to make the room into a usage that is most efficient for the students. We have some high tables and high chairs for students studying. We have lower tables and regular chairs. Then in the meeting room, we'll have a conference table and chairs, conference chairs, and then also Holly's office. So it's really 3 rooms that it's furnishing, but it's just a lot of special. Oh, I forgot the circulation desk. Circulation desk, when you walk into the library, is expensive, and also we have a couple of book drop areas as well. So there's just a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it as well. And I want to make sure that you guys know that working with the librarian and Craig Campbell over at Campbell Keller has been a really good process, and he's not upcharging or giving us the most expensive. I usually say it's high, medium, low. We're right in the middle. That's where we want to be. And so that's just kind of how it costs. There's just a lot of stuff going in that room.
Okay, and this one is piggybacked on the Los Rios Community College.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, let's go out for public questions. Any public questions? I see Tad there.
Yeah, on the circulation desk, does this bid include security so the books don't just disappear?
We don't have a security system in it because the district would then have to buy software. They have to put in tags into each book, and at this point in time, this district doesn't do that. My understanding, that school doesn't do that. So no, we don't have that.
Okay, any other public questions? Go ahead, David.
Is there any way to reuse furniture that was currently being used at C.A. Jacobs? That's because the library furniture is so specialty, or is C.A. Jacobs library going to get used after this for something different, or how's that going to work?
Thank you.
Well, it's a great question. And yes, we are able to have a lot of savings on this because we are very judiciously visiting with the vendors and with our with Principal O'Connor, who has been a great joy to meet and work with, and Assistant Principal Stuvey. We have been doing site walks and of both schools. So we look at C.A. Jacobs to see what is reusable and will be relocated and what it needs to be purchased new. So it's not just the library where we look at that, what can we reuse and bring over, but it's the entire school. I can just say in the library, there is not much that's going to be reused. That's pretty old. It's patchwork types of tables, not in great shape. The shelving, of course, we're not going to unhook it from the wall. You do need to put new shelving on the wall. And this is modern, up-to-date student seating and student tables. So we aren't just buying new, just everything's new. We are using a lot of furniture, but I have to say the furniture at C.A. Jacobs, for the most part, is pretty aged, pretty beat up, a lot of wear and tear. I can give you one example of things we're bringing over is some lunch tables. There's 31 lunch tables that are in really, really good shape at C.A. Jacobs. And they will seat, I believe, 8 students in non-COVID time, so around 124, 125 students. And so that will help that helps to bring down the cost. And I think those tables are about 5 years old. They're in great shape. So there are things that are being brought over. That is part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Luke, can I make a comment about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the library at CA is almost non-existent. It's just a classroom size. Yeah. And I am so excited about the library at John Knight Middle School. It is going to be a big, very nice library for our students to be able to access. And I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
It'll be a very nice space, really nice space.
Any other public questions?
Seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, this is a resolution. Do we have a motion to approve for resolution number 20-1635 for approval of piggyback agreement for acquisition of furniture under public contract, code section 2118, Campbell Keller.
I'll move.
We have the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. This is a resolution. Lloyd?
Aye.
Yule?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Catlin?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thank you. Resolution passes. Okay, and we've removed item 4, so on to item 11A5.
Superintendent Dolan, did you want me to take this
Yeah,
one?
I can, let me do a little bit of an introduction, Lee, and then you can take it over. So we have, this is an additional award of bid that we have before the governing board tonight for your consideration. We've talked through a number of items about the scope that we initially used when we went out to bid for the John Knight project. And in retrospect, we had that scope as too narrow in a couple of ways. One is, well, first I'll say that we had a narrow scope trying to actually fit the project into a dollar price instead of trying to do the project from the most long-term, cost-effective and efficient way. So some of our change orders certainly have addressed those issues. One of the things that we had hoped to be able to avoid was doing widespread, really significant work in our kitchen area. And we were hoping to be able to do repair, replacement with our window systems across the campus instead of full replacement. And as we've gone further into the project, we see that those aren't possible options. So we do have to invest more heavily into the kitchen and into the windows than had been our intent early on. So Lee has overseen our bid process for this additional scope that we've added into the project. And I'm going to let her describe how that process has run and what the outcome of that is. And I've actually got, Mark, if you can set me up to share when it's appropriately, I've got the document that you sent to me this afternoon that I can put up on the screen so everybody can see that.
Great. Thank you. So I would first not take credit for overseeing this bid, Superintendent Dolan, because I think my colleague Jim Bombachi.
Oh, Jim, yeah, that's right. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
But you help. But you help.
I help.
Yes.
So on this bid, we actually had a bid opening today. This bid was actually advertised on July 31st and August 7th in the local paper, and a bid walk was held on August 6th. And as Superintendent Dolan has said, a lot of this preparation for this bid was making sure we had the required Division of State Architect approval, which you must have that before you let contracts or you award bids. So we were right up to the wire on that, but my colleague Jim Bombachi said, yes, we need to put this on the board. Let's take it right up to the wire and hope that we got this DSA approval, which the architects LPA did a few days ago. So congratulations to them too on their hard work on that. So we opened bids today, Jim did, and we got one bid, which we were not surprised about, and it is Burco Constructors, Inc. They are the contractors who are already out there. And we did ask them to sharpen their pencil on this. So we think it fell in line with what the estimate was. And so we're satisfied with that. And it's actually a blessing in disguise, of course, because we would have had two contractors out there on the site, and that can be a coordination nightmare. And so it's better that we have it this way. And we were able to get savings from them because they are already on the site. So we don't have to pay for mobilization costs. So again, open the bids, and that total bid amount is $3,250,000. $636,893. And that does include a 5% contingency for any changes in plans that DSA makes us do, and we don't have any. So we will right off the top get a credit for that, and that's around $158,000. And then there was a 10% contingency for some dry rot issues that we know will happen, and it'll be on a time and materials basis. And then the district owns that contingency, meaning we get back whatever isn't spent on it. So we do anticipate some savings off of this, and we recommend approval of the bid award.
Let me put the document up. Where are you? Sorry about this. There we go.
So this was my memo that I sent to Superintendent Dolan's office today, right after the bid opening. And of course, I always call bid openings or bid awards tentative based on our due diligence. So we still have to make sure they have their bonds, insurance, and all that. We know that Burco does have active insurance because they're already on site, and we'll just recheck the other documents, and that due diligence process can get going pretty quickly and be done. So we anticipate contract execution very quickly.
Okay, board questions. Any board questions?
I have none.
Okay. Lee, you said we only got the one bid, but it only opened today?
No, we opened bids today. It's been advertised since July 31st.
Okay, but we've only gotten one bid since that time.
Yes.
Right.
Did we have any other contractors do the bid walk other than Burco?
Nope, we did not. And generally, you know, it's difficult for a contractor to walk into a situation like that where you've already got something going. And so contractors are pretty wary about that anyway.
And so is that bid availability closed now?
Pardon?
Could someone still bid? I mean, no one else walked.
We're recommending that you award this to Burco.
Right,
Nice.
but I'm just curious, I mean, is it still out there that another company could bid, or since no one else walked,
No.
that's not possible?
No.
Had to be in by 2 o'clock today.
2 o'clock, okay.
Okay.
And so why originally were we gonna do this in-house, and why can't we?
Well, as you can see, this is a very, very large project. I don't believe the maintenance department has the capacity to do $3,600,000 worth of work. So no, I would never recommend that in-house. And it's part of the scope that we've increased. Superintendent Dolan talked about, as we had a very narrow scope to begin with, and we've done increases. You have seen the increases as change orders. On this one, it was large enough that we needed to go out to a separate bid.
Okay. Any other board questions?
Oh, and I just might say, this is within the budget.
Okay.
Thank you for adding that, Lee. That's important.
When you say that, could you explain a little bit? And not, I mean, you probably don't have all of your spreadsheets here, but.
Well, sure. I mean, we have increased the budget over time to take care of those scope increases that are above and beyond what would just be normal 10% overage on change orders. And you, as a board, have approved those change orders, and we thank you very much. Again, I believe this project was very, very narrowly scoped to a somewhat arbitrary number. And as there was more getting into the project, we saw that really to have a functioning, operational, and up-to-date school for those kids and teachers and parents and community and staff to walk into and use, more money was needed. So we have within the Measure Q budget, the overall program budget, this of course fits in that measure, that overall program budget. And obviously the issue is the more you spend on this project, the less you spend on other projects. But we believe that Jim and I are saying the bleeding is stopping. So we are happy with the scope increases, because really we were taking a very, very old school that had not been operated for 10 years, 12 years, and really updating all the systems in it. So now you've got a good investment of a school for the next 50 years. We could go and do even more on this school, no problem whatsoever. And maybe over future years that will happen. But those increases were needed to happen. And again, we're very judicious on, we're not just rubber stamping things. These are things that are to correct conditions in the school or to make it up to date, frankly.
Some of those windows being replaced are actually broken windows, and some of them are single pane, so to speak. They're so old, they're not the double pane safety glass and all that.
You have no safety glass there, and you have no double pane windows, right?
And the kitchen as it is now is not functional, is it?
It's not functional, or it needs to be up to health code. So we really need to bring it up to health code and current standards for use. Yes.
Luke, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah,
about,
go ahead.
Having the modern double pane windows, is there any kind of rebate or anything that we get from having energy efficient windows?
There's not any energy things we can apply for beyond Prop 39, and the district has already used its Prop 39 funds for other projects, such as the shade structure, solar, things like that. So there's not any additional out of Prop 39.
The HVAC units at John Knight are also Prop 39 purchases.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other board questions? Okay, let's go out for public questions.
I have Mike up first.
Oh man, Luke, I heard the hesitation in your voice. Mike Richards, concerned citizen of the public. Could we get a breakdown in this $3.6 million of what is windows and what is kitchen? I have a vested interest because on July 11th, 2019, a year ago, Mr. Dolan speculated that the kitchen would cost $150,000. And if I emailed the board members the next day and said, if it wasn't at least double that, I'd wear a Seahawks uniform for a day. So I want to make sure I'm off the hook on that. Luke, I appreciate your question about capacity. Internally, I won't address that. The windows were in the original scope. So I'm wondering what kind of credit we got on that versus, you know, this all being additional change order job. And then in the board packet, it says the bid was advertised in the Dixon Tribune on July 31st and August 7th. Why would we advertise it on the 7th if the bid walk is on the 6th? I mean, if you're not doing a bid walk on this job, you don't need to be bidding it. So, I mean, that's kind of there. And I mean, my other question, I know Lee covered this and she's going to blame DSA. But as I said, July 11th, 2019, we approved LPA Designs for $141,000 to be the architect on this job. Why it's taken this long to get to this point is ridiculous. I mean, we've known about the windows that long too. I mean, I know we're going to throw out this unforeseen, but it was foreseen, and it's easily to walk through and see that we need windows. I continue to be shocked by the utter mismanagement and waste of funds on this project. It's really sickening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, Kathy?
Kathy up next.
I'm new to budgeting in schools, so forgive me for my naivete. Anyway, two questions I have for you. One is, why was the bid closed so fast? It just strikes me as if you've only got a bid open for 2 weeks, it doesn't really give time for people to process it. So that's one question. And my second question is that $3 million plus, is that the maximum, or are we going to have a bunch of changeovers coming up on top of that? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Have Laura up next.
Hi, I just kind of have a question, more or less, when we started this journey with the bond money and addressing our schools, and with all these change orders for the middle school, I'm just wondering, because I've kind of been out of the plan and of hearing, what about when we come to Anderson? Are we kind of at the point where there's no funds really to address Anderson? Because I just remember the public had a big concern of our Anderson school, and I'm just kind of seeing money going. And I was just kind of curious on, do we still have a budget for Anderson, or are we still going to address Anderson?
Yep, thank you, Laura.
Have Tad up next.
So if Burco gets this bid, are they prepared to start immediately? I would imagine most of the windows and kitchen supplies would have to be custom manufactured by a third party somewhere. So can you give an update on the timeline? Thank you.
Thank you, Tad.
Have David up next.
Go ahead,
I'd
David.
just like to know if the bid is part of project labor agreement, or if there's guaranteed union work that's going to be used as part of this construction.
Did you guys get that question? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I understood it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other public comment?
I'm seeing none.
Okay, I'll close public comment. Let's start with Mike's questions. He asked about a breakdown of the windows versus the kitchen. Can you give us a rough idea, Lee, of what percent would be which?
I don't yet. Normally on a low bid, when you do go out for a low bid, you only get a lump sum. So the contractor is never obligated to break that down unless you spell that out. And what we will though get is a schedule of values, which does tell us what's windows and what are kitchen. And so we will be able to provide that, yes, but we don't have that yet, not until contracts are signed.
Okay, and Mike commented about windows being in scope. I mean, obviously there were some windows that had been broken that were clearly had to be replaced versus the front ones, which were in scope and which were not in the original scope.
I don't know, but it was very minor window repair, I believe, and some replacement, obviously for broken. And yes, we will get credit.
Okay. And do you know how much that credit is by chance? Is that the?
No, that'll be negotiated. It'll be, you'll see it in a change order if you haven't already.
Okay. And then he asked about why did we go out for another bid on, I think it was August 7th after the August 6th walk?
Right. So public school districts are required to put a bid out, advertised for a minimum of 2 weeks, which is what we did. We are very much under the gun to get this, and I can kind of answer Tad's questions too. There are long lead items, which are the windows and which is the kitchen equipment. And so we wanted to get this out and bid and get going as soon as possible. And yes, we did know that windows were needed, and it's now at the point where we can do this bid. So it came about at the appropriate time for this project. I think we had some hopeful thinking along the way, and then we saw the extent of it.
Okay. And so it's not that this was an unforeseen item, it just was an item that was not put in scope for whatever hopeful reason or trying to make the budget fit the project.
I think the latter, yes.
Yeah, the latter.
Okay. And then I think Kathy asked about why the bid closed fast.
I think I answered that question. It's a minimum of 2 weeks. And on many projects, that's what school districts put bids out for. And so we followed the law on that. And I think her next question also was, will we see change orders? It's always possible to see change orders, always, on every project, every bid. And so I cannot guarantee there won't be, but we're hoping that there won't be, obviously. A 10% margin on change orders is what you want to aim for at the max. So we hope we won't have any. I'm thinking with the contingency, it'll cover it. I'm hoping, but I don't know.
Okay, and then Laura asked about the impact on the funding for Anderson work, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about that. So could you kind of give us a nutshell on that?
Sure. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and the board sees very, very detailed budget and expenditure reports, which are available to the public at any time. And in that, you will see the overall Measure Q program budget, which does contain millions and millions of dollars for Anderson. At this point in time, I believe in a two-phase project over those two phases, it's about $11 million. So yes, we still have a budget. We're desperately, not desperately, but saving as much money as we can on this project to do a good Anderson project. I will have to say that the architects who we're probably going to use for this have looked at our facility master plan documents and other documents and have seen the school, and they are saying clearly that's a pared down budget too. But of course, that's very typical. School districts pass bonds and they're not going to fund everything that they can. So we are always monitoring the budget and expenditures. And again, these reports are available to the public and you can see it. Yes, there is a budget for Anderson.
And that budget for Anderson and that phased approach also includes going out for additional funding, correct? For not from taxpayers, but from the state.
Correct. It's very reliant on two batches of state funding. One is about 3.8 million that we know we are already in line for. And that was what for John Knight Middle School. But what you do is you front money and then you backfill as the state funding comes along for the next project. So about 3.8 million we know we're going to get in a couple of years. And then we'll be able to do phase one of Anderson. That's the plan so far. And again, we will be presenting to you a more detailed schedule shortly in the next coming months. And then phase two would go out several years because as we know, Prop 39, which was the school bond, did not pass in 2020, March 2020 did not pass. And so therefore, we will go out for the state funding another batch, and that's for Anderson. And that's about $3 million maximum as well, but that's out several years.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I didn't get David's question. It had something to do with union work, I think.
Right, he asked about a project labor agreement, and Dixon is not a signatory to a project labor agreement. I'm not sure how, I think Burco is signatory to several unions, but I'm not sure which ones, but I could get that information. And then I think there was another question about, Tad asked about when can Burco start? And we talked about how it's nice that they're already mobilized on the site, so there won't be any mobilization time. And part of this push on to get it on the board and to, we had that contingent bid award was we wanted the contractor to be able to go ahead and purchase these long lead items and get that going, because it is vital to get those purchased as soon as possible. So I believe the schedule now is December 15th for everything to finish on that project.
Right.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so this is an action item. Do we have a motion for approval of the award of bid for the windows and kitchen at John Knight Middle School?
I'll move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Lloyd? Think we lost you there, Lloyd. Can you say it again?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Jewel? You're muted, Jewel.
Aye.
Thank you. Melissa?
Aye.
Catlin?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay, so let's move on to item 11A6, Equity Task Force.
Yes, we again thank the board for approving at our last regular meeting a district task force centered around equity. I told you at that time that Maria Lukin, who is our supplemental and concentration grant coordinator, had graciously agreed with my demand to lead this task force. I might have been a little nicer than demanding, but there really was one person who works for Dixon Unified who I wanted to see lead this work for us, and that's Maria. So what we want to try to do tonight, actually Maria is going to do the work for us, is refer back to our board policy and start to talk about how we're going to structure this work and what some of the specific steps that we'll take. So that said, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lukin and have her walk us through this. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. Good evening, everyone. Mark, may I please share my screen? I have a short presentation to share with everyone. There we go. Thank you, Mark. It's a little bit of a delay here.
Okay.
I apologize. Here we go. Okay, so in working with Mr. Dolan, we decided to look back at our board policy that really outlines our work for equity in this district. And just looking at board policy 0415, which was adopted on February 7, 2019, we went through and we pulled out some of the key aspects and key charges that this policy gives us as a district. So one of them that we really need to focus on is ensuring the equity as an intentional result of district decisions. I always talk about student success by design rather than by accident, and I think this is a really good way of looking at things. Equity is the intentional result of our decisions. It's not an accident. The policy also charges us with developing and implementing policies and strategies that promote equity in our district programs and activities. And finally, regularly monitoring the intent and impact of the district policies and decisions in order to safeguard against unintentional impacts. As we know, sometimes we as systems may implement some actions that have negative consequences. And without that regular monitoring, we really don't have a way to know if what we're doing is producing some unintended consequences. So looking ahead to the work, in digging into that board policy, we found 9 key measures of equity that the board policy outlines. They are looking at student achievement data of all of our students and really looking into all of our different student groups, not just all the different student groups. Also conducting student needs assessments, analyzing our expenditures to see how our funds are being distributed among all of our different student groups, our enrollment in extracurriculars and advanced courses, measuring positive school climate, ensuring that we have a culturally relevant curriculum, community support for student needs, that we're employing and retaining diverse staff, and finally, that our professional learning is ongoing, research-based, and culturally relevant. In working with Mr. Dolan, we identified that many of these things we're already doing, but perhaps not in the most systemic way. So then we move forward to really look at what the work is ahead. So we identified 2 things. So our essential question for this task force is, how do we operationalize the intent of this board policy? How do we put it into action? And the product that we hope this task force will bring forward is to identify those priority measures of equity. We have 9 of them. We are already taking many steps to meet the intent of this board policy. But at the same time, we need to prioritize. We can't do everything, and we can't do it all at once. So what are the key areas of growth, and how do we plan to address those key areas of growth? And finally, creating an evaluation tool that would enable the Board of Education to regularly monitor progress. I don't see this project as a project that is done in 1 month or 1 year. This is an ongoing task that we have as a district to ensure that we are always taking a look at monitoring how we are doing through an equity lens. In terms of next steps, the first step would definitely be creating that task force. And our membership really needs to include a diverse group of stakeholders, not representatives just from the different ethnic and socioeconomic groups, but also from a linguistically diverse group. So all of our task force will be bilingual. I envision us having breakout groups with our different stakeholder meetings. We want to make sure that Spanish speakers, English speakers have access to this task force. We will release an application that will be a very simple form that we'll distribute to all of our stakeholders next week, essentially describing what the scope of work is for the year, and also asking very simple question. Why do you want to be a part of this task force? The commitment will be for the 2020-2021 school year, and the membership is open. The membership is open to, like I said, any stakeholder, but we will select a group of stakeholders to join us. We're envisioning a group of between 20 to 25 people to lead this work. At the end of every school year, members can choose to reapply for the following school year or not. And the task force with the new membership would pick up the work from year to year. And once we have our monitoring tool and our action steps, we would follow the continuous improvement cycle, where we would plan for implementation in the spring, implement in the fall and winter, study our progress in the winter and spring, and start all over again. This is an ongoing process. This is not something that, a plan that we create, we leave it on a shelf and we move forward. So like we said, I'm really excited to be able to have the opportunity to work in this type of task force. I think it's really key that we recognize some of the efforts that the district has already taken in ensuring equitable access to our programs for all of our students, and also being more targeted in the way that we evaluate our impact. Are there any questions, or what questions do you have for me?
Great, thank you. Any board questions?
I had a question about when you're talking about the bilingual nature of your meetings. So you're talking about you're going to have some, like a translator or something there, right? That not all board members need to be bilingual.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
You said the task force meetings will be bilingual, but you're actually saying that there will be a translator or something to help facilitate conversation between languages, not that all task force members need to be bilingual.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter what language group you belong to or which language you are strongest in. We will have support for that. I envision leading, some sessions might be split where you're doing the same work in English and in Spanish in different groups, and then coming together with interpreters available.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Any other board questions? Maria, how do you plan to release out the application? Is it just going to be on the district website, or how are we going to reach out to people?
We are going to put on the district website. We're going to also make it available on Facebook and good old robocalls as well. I can also, what we had a lot of success with were paper applications, believe it or not, for summer school. There was a designated place at the district office for families to drop off the applications and pick them up. And we'll also do that because we know, as much as we want all of our families online, and we know that most of them are, sometimes it's more comfortable to write a paper application. So we'll have a designated pickup spot.
And with respect to those different groups we want represented on the committee, if you don't get those, then you'll actively seek out people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to make sure that we have representation from all of our stakeholders. And I really think it's key to have student voice included in this. Students are the key to many of these conversations because they're actively experiencing our system. So if we were to not have enough representation from any of the groups, we would actively seek more membership.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other board comments before we go to public comment? Okay, hearing none, let's go out for public questions. I see Valerie had her hand up.
Wow,
That was awesome. Maria, I've never met you, but I can tell. Hello, nice to meet you virtually. I can tell by your energy and your presentation and your whole smile, you are going to do a great job with this. And Brian and Maria, what a professional and focused presentation. It's more than I could have hoped for, and I'm just so pleased. I'm very excited. And like you said, equity has been in place, but the district and the community is realizing that we need to go deeper. And that's what we all need to do, is just take a look at what's happening. And if what we have isn't deep enough, we just need to change it or to make it better. And so Luke, thank you for asking that question. That was a really good question, because I know there are a lot of people that might be interested but may not know exactly where to get the application. So I love that it's going to be on Facebook. My question is, I love that you're going to actively seek out to make sure it's very diverse and that all people are represented, because we have large populations of certain diversity, but there are smaller populations that are not normally heard, and we may need to make sure that those are heard too. I just love it. I'm very proud of what you guys are doing. So can I send you an email, Maria, and just kind of connect with you that way about some questions and ideas? And then when is the deadline for the applications?
I haven't set the deadline yet. It'll be very early September.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Can't wait to meet you in person someday.
Likewise, thank you.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you for your support.
I have David up next.
Hi there. I noticed that one of the criteria for the equity task force here was discussing the cultural sensitivity of the curriculum. So I was wondering, maybe to Mr. Dolan, maybe to the board, how do you think the curriculum is as it stands? Maybe if you want to focus specifically on social science and things like that. And secondly, how comfortable do you feel in, picking a curriculum that could meet the standards that this task force establishes?
Mr. Dolan, would you like me to answer that?
Luke, would you, do you want us to answer now? You want us to hold? Luke, you're muted.
Sorry, there I did that. Oh, shoot. Yeah, let's wait till we have all the questions. I see Tad has his hand up, so that's probably the last one. And then
I have Tad up next.
So I was very pleased to see that you want student participation. I think that's really important. I was kind of interested, what age group of students are you looking at? And once you get your committee set up, what percentage of students do you expect to participate or would like to have participate? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tad. Any other public questions?
Seeing none at this time.
Okay, let's close public comment. Maria, yeah, if you'd like to answer David's question about curriculum.
So all of our curriculum is currently in compliance with state standards. And I know that we have not adopted social studies. You mentioned social studies curriculum in particular. We have not gone through that adoption cycle, but when we do, that has to be in line with our state standards, and the state standards include including all the different student groups and not student groups, a diverse group of stakeholders in the curriculum. So I know we haven't adopted. I don't have a date to when we will adopt, but that will be part of what we do as a task force, is analyze what we currently have and plan for next steps.
Yeah, and I would just add in really quickly that while the adoption hasn't happened, our history social science staff have been engaged in an awful lot of professional development in this particular area of the culturally responsive and diverse curriculum. So there's some progress there before the materials are purchased, but we do have to get moving on that adoption as well.
Okay, and then Tad asked about the age and numbers of students on the task force.
We don't have a set number yet of students, but we definitely are looking for secondary students. Just because of the appropriateness of the conversations that we'll be having, that might not be accessible to an elementary age child, but definitely looking for some of our secondary kiddos, middle school and high schools. I want to make sure that they're representative of all the secondary sites, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Maria. Okay, anything else, Brian, before we move on?
No, like I said at the start, you see Maria Lukin is the proper person to be leading this effort for us. She was very gracious, referring to me as having done preparation for this. And she walked in and we fine-tuned a little bit of the great work that she had already done. So you can anticipate really probably not next meeting, but the meeting out, I don't know what that date in September is, it's around the 20th or give or take, that we'd come back at that point in time, we should be able to report on the members of the committee and when meetings will get going and how some of those things are going to be structured. So we look forward to walking this path and again, appreciate the board's commitment to seeing this work happen and supporting it. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's move on then to 11B1, Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan.
Hello again. Mark, do I have permission to share? Actually, I don't need it, Mark, actually. Fine. So this evening, actually, this is a brief presentation really to introduce folks to for lack of a better putting, the new LCAP this year, the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. So for those of you who've been around for a while, you probably know LCAP typically stands for the Local Control Accountability Plan. It's the big plan that we submit and work through preparing for the following academic year. It's approved usually at the last board meeting in June. That was pushed this year due to the closure of schools. And initially the plan was that it was pushed all the way until mid-December for a new LCAP to be written for the 2021 school year. That was since has been moved to late September, to September 30th. Actually, we need to have this approved. They named it the same, or they gave it the same letters as the acronym of LCAP because it's meant to replace the LCAP, the traditional LCAP. There are some just key points that I want to visit tonight to talk about of what this does. First of all, it does require us to have some conversations around how we've engaged stakeholders. We've done a lot of that work, frankly, in board meetings this year. We've had board meetings pretty much weekly all through the summer. That has not happened everywhere. We've had, at some meetings over 400 people. I think we had over 500 at one meeting, if I remember correctly. Some of our meetings have gone well over 5 hours. So we've got a lot of stakeholder input just from these types of meetings. But we've done some surveys throughout the spring and in the summer as well. We did some parent town halls. I don't want to go through all the details of these right now. I'm just sharing what the plan requires us to do. We can also consider the work that we did prior to the closure to plan for the traditional LCAP as part of the stakeholder outreach for this LCAP. Realize that was a lot of words to say. All the work that we were doing last fall and winter is not for naught. We can still include that as part of this work and will. And of course, I want to mention that this work has to get in front of our DLAC, our District English Language Advisory Committee as well. We also need to include how we've made these meetings accessible. It's a pretty easy section of the document to fill out. We're obviously making it accessible through the work that we're doing it now with Zoom. The next part of the plan asks us to discuss how we plan to transition to in-person learning, especially as it pertains to mitigating learning loss, and then what budgets we would associate with that. Our plan will not be, we'll have some pieces to put in there, but when this was first approved, I think the anticipation from this, when this was first mandated, I think in late June, most people were thinking that we would be returning to school with in-person learning now or soon to now. So I think that this will be a fairly light section for most school districts in California, although we need to be thinking about this, and we certainly have lots to put in here. More important will be how what we're doing for our distance learning program. So how we're providing access to devices and connectivity, how we're going to track pupil participation and progress, what professional development have we done. None of these things should sound like strange items. These are all things that we're working on and certainly can speak to in the document. And then of course, because it's an LCAP, we have to be aware of and talking about the things that we're doing to meet the unique learning needs of all of our students, but especially our English learners, our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and our students who are homeless or who are in foster care. So, we receive extra dollars, or I shouldn't say extra, we receive supplemental and concentration grant dollars from the state of California due to the percentage of those students in our district. And we need to account for how we are specifically serving them. And again, these are things that we can absolutely speak to. And then another piece of this is we need to associate budgets with this. So we'll be putting in how we're spending our supplemental and concentration grant dollars that I just mentioned, but also those dollars that we talked about a little bit earlier, such as our CARES dollars, et cetera, to meet the needs of our kids. So you'll be seeing this at the next meeting, I don't want to call it a draft of the plan, but that's the public hearing of the plan. So folks can provide us with feedback on what's happening there. And then at the last meeting in September, we'll be looking for approval of the plan. So lots of work to do. Again, the nice thing is this is work we've been doing. It's now just formalizing it in the form of a plan.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Board questions. So you'll be able to pull a lot of this stuff from the old LCAP advisory committee discussions. And
yeah, I'm also rewatching all of the board meetings over the course of the summer. I'm kidding. But
you better have a lot of caffeine if you're.
That's right. No, but I mean, we've taken a lot of notes and taken a lot of feedback and had a lot of conversations with various stakeholder groups. But we need to kick it back out as well once we get the plan actually down on paper to get more input as needed.
Yeah, so I mean, I know there were stakeholder groups, all these stakeholder groups on the advisory committee for the LCAP, but it would be good if when you get this rough drafted out, it's available for everyone to look at and give feedback.
And specifically that group, sorry, I didn't mention that, but yes, we'll need to pull that group. That group has been working LCAPS and Dixon Unified for a number of years. They really kind of understand this work. And then once we're through this and start our next cycle of LCAPS, which will begin almost immediately after this, we'll be looking to build a broader coalition of folks to be part of that group.
Okay. Any other board questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, let's go out for public comment. If you have a comment, please raise your digital hand now.
I'm seeing none.
Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the public hearing on resolution 20-1633, temporary interfund borrowing of cash.
Good evening, President Foster, members of the board, Superintendent Dolan. This evening, I have two items. The first is the public hearing on temporary borrowing of cash. Mark, can you let me share my screen, please? Thank you, sir. So typically, I would not do a PowerPoint presentation for a resolution, but this one's a little more complex than what I would typically share, and there's more details involved. And so I am doing a quick presentation to help help board and the public have a good understanding of what this resolution is about. It's titled Temporary Borrowing of Between Funds.
I'm sorry, Monique, I'm just going to officially open the public hearing because I didn't officially do that. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this resolution, 20-1633, is temporary borrowing between funds. An overview, I'll give background, and I'll also talk about the 2021 cash deferrals, which is really prompting us to come to you this evening. We'll talk about the cash deferral solutions, have a bit more information about temporary interfund borrowing, and discuss next steps. So a little background, the governing board approved resolution 2016-31, temporary borrowing of cash on June 18, 2020. So this may sound familiar. However, the Budget Act increased the amount of cash deferrals in the general fund for this coming year and the next year. And the Budget Act actually added more flexibility for districts to borrow cash between funds. So I want to talk about the Budget Act cash deferrals and what that really means for us as a district and really districts throughout California. The May revision of the governor's budget included cash deferrals of the June 2020 apportionment payment. And the apportionment payment is another term for our state aid, which is the majority, the bulk of the funding that we get for our district. The Budget Act expanded the cash deferrals and includes deferrals for February through June. So instead of just having 1 month of cash deferrals, we're looking at multiple months of cash deferrals. And so it's causing our district to have to evaluate interfund borrowing and other loan options to be able to pay our employees because in essence, the state is giving us an IOU. I shared this graph or this picture at our last board meeting, and I want to emphasize the numbers on the picture is not what's important. What's important with this visual is to really understand the impact of the cash deferrals. Right now, we're projecting that we'll have a deferral of about 32% of the cash that we should be receiving. So that's about $6 million. Our deferrals will begin in February. So the government or the state is saying our February deferral is not going to come. I'll give you an IOU to pay you all the way in November. In March, I'll give you another IOU to pay you in October, April to September, May to August, and June to July. So we'll have several months in which we will really encounter some cash issues, and we need to find solutions to that. Some of those solutions, which are common for every district to consider, and I want to also take a moment to emphasize, cash deferrals are not new to districts. Back during the Great Recession, we experienced many cash deferrals, so we're pretty much back into that situation. But the impact of these deferrals are, from what some people are saying, are more than what we've ever experienced before. So some of those solutions are what I'm discussing with you this evening. Is temporary interfund borrowing, TRANS, known as tax and revenue anticipation notes, borrowing from the County Office of Education, and borrowing from the County Treasurer. Temporary interfund borrowing, it's of course due to cash deferrals. The Budget Act increases the borrowing limits requirements for more transparency with the public. That's why I'm here with you today, is because of the Budget Act. It's requiring us to come back to you and have a public hearing and then an adoption of the resolution, should you so choose so. The changes to this new resolution include that the changes are only for this year and next year, and it includes an increase to the amount we can borrow between funds. Previously, we could only borrow 75% of that fund's cash. Now we can borrow up to 85% of that fund's cash. Previously, the previous board resolution and the previous regulations, it said that a resolution was recommended to be approved by the board, which we do. Now it's required. And in the past, there was no public hearing required for a temporary interfund borrowing. Now we must have a public hearing. Temporary interfund borrowing is really the least expensive method to address cash flow needs. And what that means is that there's borrowing between different funds, and the different funds is their general fund. As a reminder to the public, the general fund is the fund or the budget in which we can use those funds to purchase anything. You can also borrow from the bond fund, which is not typical because there's a lot of stipulations related to borrowing within that fund. You can also borrow with the cafeteria fund, which is very common because the way the cafeteria fund receives its revenue, it's pretty much delayed. It's on a reimbursement, and it's normal to borrow cash within the school year between the cafeteria fund and the general fund. You can also borrow between the facilities fund and also the special reserve fund, also known as our capital outlay projects. So that is pretty much an overview of where we are tonight and why I'm bringing this resolution to you. We are going to have cash deferrals. With the new Budget Act, we are allowed to borrow cash between funds at a higher limit. In order to do that, then we need to have a public hearing, which we are requesting that you do this evening, which you are. And then the next step, we request that the governing board approve the resolution to prevent some cash shortfalls later in the year and next year. What questions do you have?
Okay, board questions. So basically this resolution will increase the ability to borrow from other funds from 75 to 85%. And then we have to pay back the original fund that we borrowed from.
Absolutely, just like we had before. But then in order to borrow 85%, which I recommend that we have that option to do so, we have to bring this resolution back to you and have this public hearing.
Okay. And okay, and as you said, this is to basically get us through until the state provides the money that's deferred.
Yes.
Okay. Seeing no other board questions, let's go out for public questions and comment. If you have a public question or comment, please raise your hand now.
Seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on resolution number 20-1633. And we can move on to item 11C2, action resolution 20-1633, temporary interfund borrowing of cash. Do we have any board questions or comments on the resolution? Seeing none, do we have any public questions or comments on the resolution?
Seeing none.
Seeing none, do we have a motion for approval of resolution 20-1633, temporary interfund borrowing of cash?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll be the second. Jewel can be the
Okay,
first.
we have a motion by Jewel and a second by Melissa. Roll call vote. Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Catlin?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. Resolution passes. Thank you. Okay. 11D1, approval of reclassification of classified position.
Yes, good evening. Sorry, I was trying to multitask and get some work done too. I am here tonight to present this item to the board for consideration to approve this reclassification study. I wanted to share with the board the process in which we got here for tonight's presentation. The reclassification process is outlined in the SEIU contract under Article 18. Applications can be submitted between November 1 and January 31 of each year to the Human Resources Department. A reclassification committee was formed and consisted of 2 SEIU representatives and 3 district administrators, 1 administrator who is selected by SEIU. The 5-panel member thoroughly reviewed the application and all of its attachments as part of this study. The reclassification committee recommends approving this request and was forwarded to the superintendent for consideration. Upon superintendent's review and consideration, the superintendent is recommending approval of this reclassification to the board tonight. The recommendation is to reconfigure the 8-hour workday as follows. 4 hours as a program office coordinator, and 4 hours as a student data systems manager. This reconfiguration will ensure that the district will remain in legal compliance and mandated reporting that's required of Dixon Unified School District, and allow for the district to be reimbursed through Medi-Cal funds from our special education department. This process was conducted in a manner that complied with the guidelines as outlined in the contract. This item is now before the board for final consideration. If the board chooses to approve this item, it will be effective July 1, 2020. And staff does recommend the board approving this item as presented tonight.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Do we have any board questions? So Cindy, this reclassification, you said it allows us to stay in compliance. Is this because the employee was doing, or we want the employee to do duties outside of the prior classification?
Yes, in fact, it's going to require this employee to do work outside of the classification because there were a few items that the county office SELPA used to be able to support the district on completing on a regular basis each year. However, that mandate has been now pushed down to school districts rather than the county office SELPA being able to assist us with that task. And so it is a requirement for us to be in compliance.
Okay, so the job duties are changing and it was reviewed by the committee as set forth in the contract. And everyone has suggested, you've suggested, the district suggested we approve this.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and let's open this up for public comment.
I'm sorry, I'm seeing none.
You didn't fall asleep there, did you, Mark? Okay.
I apologize.
No problem. Okay, so seeing no public comment, do we have a motion to approve reclassification of classified position, one classified employee?
I'll move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Lloyd?
Aye.
Yul?
Aye.
Melissa? You're muted, Melissa.
Aye.
Catlin?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, anything else before we move on to agenda items?
Just that if we could be finished by 8:30, our families won't know what's happened to us. The community may tune in at 10:30 and not figure out where we've gone, so nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay, any agenda items for future meetings? Any board member agenda items requests?
No.
Okay.
One thing that I would love to hear about is our work that we're doing to protect our equipment. We had talked about this several times.
Yep.
Just so we know that we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah, we will do that. Mark and Adam were working on that before, and Mark and I have had some conversation around it as well. So we will bring that to you.
Great. Anything else? Okay, hearing nothing else. Any board announcements? Seeing none. Coming events, August 24th, first day of school, September 3rd, next board meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
We
I'll
have a
second.
motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice night.